Hello and welcome back to Elliott's podcast, and we are on video again for the second week in a row. I don't know why I subject myself to such torture with increasing the challenge of the podcast, but at least I realize that if I am going to add video on, that I could maybe make things easier with myself in terms of what I talk about. So when I started this podcast, I would research stuff and I would talk about things that needed research. And now I'm gonna show you some of the leftover pasta I made today. That's what this has come to. And I'm wearing my cozy gear. Let's see if I get my slippers on. No. They're champion. They're like mega sneaker slippers. They're really comfy. I'm in my classic hoodie. I wear a Lacoste hoodie all the time. I have many different colors of them, and it's cozy weather now because Toronto is in this awful weather is the way we put it. It's whatever. You got to be grateful for the fact that there is weather, which means that there is life and that there is a planet and that there's consciousness. And if you're stuck complaining about the weather, it's like, oh, I'll be happy only if I move to Florida or Mexico, then you've got a lot of problems to deal with because you're not getting it. And we just deal with it here in Canada because there's nowhere even to go to that's interesting. Hate to say it that way. I mean, BC, some parts might get mild weather out in the island. I don't think so. It's rainy a lot in Vancouver, that's for sure. So, and the east coast of Canada is screwed up for weather in the winter in these months as well. So we're stuck having to go to the States minimum for nice weather, and nowadays it's not as appealing to go anywhere really. So we're hunkering down again. Most people we're getting ready for the next stuff to deal with and all the fun that's been happening. And yeah, I mean, I've been overall happy with how the pandemic has been for me, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. It's such a serious issue that I want to address because I don't usually talk about it on my podcast or my newsletter, that it's been very, very difficult because of the amount of pain it's inflicted on the world. Yet, meanwhile, I've sort of, especially when we go back to the original lockdowns, I really hunkered down on this music stuff, and I'm continuing that progress as we keep navigating it. And I guess as an introverted type of person, I've been mostly content with just keeping low key and trying to work on music. Trying is the operative word, and I'm going to talk about that today as well. I'll give some insight onto that. So the first thing so today's episode, let's remind you where I am. If you're not, if you're watching the video, then if you watched it last week, you'll know what's going on here. I'm in the hallway. I keep moving around because the microphone blocks my mouth. I want you to see my face. I'm in the hallway to the bathroom, and this time I left the bathroom door open a bit. Let's see if I can show you the toilet. Yeah, if I bend this way, you can see the toilet is just there, and I left that door open as a form of key light. So that's, I think that's called key light. I'm going to talk a little bit today about some video stuff that I've learned over the past few months. I've been experimenting with video, and I think it's good info for like everyone, not just people who want to be YouTube famous. I have a camera that I'm going to talk about today. So that's the main point of the show. And then let's get my list out and see what else is on tap. Okay. I got yeah, there's a whole bunch of things here to go over. Yeah, just the first thing is that, yeah, I'm not that comfortable the way I'm sitting right now. And that's just the nature of the business. I mean, I make video in my home. Like I have these like the hallway I'm in right now is narrow. It's not, yeah, I'm also worried this video is crooked. I just do what I can, to make it happen. And so as a result, yeah, I don't have the most comfortable setup. Every video I make it in a different corner of my home, and I just try it out. And that's the nature of experimentation. And ideally, yeah, if someone would probably, if you are making video, you probably want a large open space to work with, and then you can add in tables and whatever as to make a film set. But I just, I'm at home and I squish, I put the tripod down and I figure things out. I love the Bo Burnham Inside special on Netflix because it really taps into exactly what I go through. Like I move cables around and set things up anywhere, and it's a complete mess, but I do my best to make it look good on when it gets to camera. So let's so the first thing is so the first thing on tap, I like to do a call to action before I start everything, because then if I forget to do it later. But I am starting to offer music lessons over the holidays, which is good, because if you're used to your holidays being a waste of time and you feel guilty after, then we can work together. And so those lessons are, I can teach guitar, but that's not really, I'm happy to teach guitar. I can't teach keyboard. My skills on the keyboard, I'm really addressing lately. It's a problem. I got by for many years and made a lot of tracks on the keyboard, but I'm going to reset myself to beginner mode. But on guitar, I've been making a lot of progress, and I could teach a beginner guitar, but the focus of the lessons is really for mostly musicians who have some kind of practice in place, but have maybe lapsed or they're looking to start recording or other stuff. So the lessons really expand to many different areas. There's also people who are looking to do a podcast and work with video, and then people who are looking to write more and that sort of thing. So it's kind of like creative coaching, creative training is one way to put it, and also creator. The creator is the term now for people who are trying to be on YouTube and that sort of thing. And so, yeah, it's creator training, creator support is some ways to explain it. And yes, there's a lot of topics there, and I just wanted to throw it out because in the coming weeks I'm going to start promoting that more and looking to book some of these sessions, because I really do believe that the stuff that I've been working on has helped me, and I think it'll help other people. I've been on a fairly consistent release schedule since, there's a few months where I stopped for a bit, but I must be hitting close to 40 releases on Spotify and Apple Music at the moment, and I'm only going to that's only going to keep getting worse for people who have to listen to my music, because I can't see a way that I'm going to dial that back. I'm writing way more even lately. So that's really what it comes down to is turning off the critic and the blockages that keep people stuck in some kind of mental prison is my best way of putting it. And so I guess I could talk a bit about that right now, but maybe, you know what? Maybe I'll get to the next item, I think, because I want to update about this coffee filter. So this is the Buffalo BUPHALLO coffee filter. They were kind enough to send this to me, and I talked about it last week. But I think I made a mistake with the way I talked about it. And so technically, I had spread false information about grind size. And this week I got better results by making last week the mistake I said was that because this thing, by the way, they're a Canadian company, so I really like going on about this and supporting them. The mesh, it's a stainless steel filter, which means you don't have to use paper filters. You just have to get the grinds out to your organic bin on your own. That's the gray area, because there's always a little bit has to go down the sink. And but it's a very fine mesh. It's fine mesh, but it still lets the water through really quickly. So there's a lot to experiment with grind size. And the first week that I had it, I was going coarse. And now this week I went a lot more finer. I made the coffee almost as fine as you would go for espresso. And I was able to dial in a more bitter, stronger coffee, which is my preference. But now the flavor of the coffee is completely bitter. So I have to. There's many factors, and I keep getting more and more into pour over coffee technique as I keep getting deeper into the rabbit hole. And there's some gadgets on my Christmas Hanukkah list that I want to get this all right, to straighten it out. Because what you want is coffee that's strong, but also has the taste of the beans. And if I'm just going for strong, I'm not getting that taste, the notes, the hints, whatever wine people say. So, anyways, I just wanted to clear that up because it was completely wrong information. So, yeah, I just so you know, the factors in terms of pour over coffee brewing, they are the grind size, they are the temperature of the water, which should be a little lower than boiling, so around 92, and then the speed of the water going into the coffee and how many times you pour that. And so that's why there's pour over competitions, and it's a very fascinating field. And I just love it. So I wanted to update about the Buffalo filter. Next one is I made a chicken pasta last night, and I'm going to show the leftovers. So let's take this out, and this is a bow tie chicken pasta with olive oil and garlic sauce. So it's a very simple pasta, and I'm just holding it up to the camera. And the highlight of this is something I've learned about lately, is that when you're making pasta, save some of the water that it was boiled in for the sauce. And I think it's because there's starch in that water that comes out of the noodles, and you add it to the sauce. In this case, I added a bit too much of that water because I made a small amount of pasta. But I guess just to review how I did this pasta, I think I cooked the chicken first, mostly cooked, set it aside. Well, the noodles you start first because they take the longest. And you read the instructions on the box, like Barilla, for al dente noodles. So I did about 11 minutes, and then so the chicken cooked, and then I reset the pan, and that's when I put I guess olive oil and a bit of olive oil, and I started the garlic. And so I start the garlic first, olive oil, and then a bit of that water, which I put too much of, so that meant I had sauce. And then I think I just added the noodles and the chicken all in that pan. So I probably could have done a better job at the order, but it turned out good, and yeah, I'm happy with that. So that's the chicken pasta, and the tip with the boiling water, adding the boiled water to the thing. I should take some water while I've done that. Okay, the next one is my golf update. So I hit golf balls indoors when it gets too cold. I have somehow been I guess everything has clicked, and now this is trusting that the monitor is showing the right data, but in the past 2 weeks, my golf swing has increased the distance by, so on the driver, I'm now hitting it as far as 220 yards, which is really good because I used to maybe hit 180 yards and it would go off to a side. So there were some hits today that were 220 and down the middle. And then with a 3-wood club, that was 180 yards. And with the 6-iron, that was 150 yards. So, yeah, I think it's just the lesson there, that why I'd bring that up is really, it just shows you that if you stick with something, you eventually do get results, even though there was a lot of weeks this year when I was fixing problems with the golf swing and it was sending the ball to the other side of the fairway or whatever. And then I'd fix it and then go the opposite direction. It was like very frustrating. And I guess I'm just trying to say that a bit of persistence pays off in these situations, because all of a sudden, I mean, if we're trusting here that the monitor is showing very accurate information and that I'm not just being delusional, but the numbers that I just told you are pretty good for, someone who, well, yeah, I did play as a teenager. I wasn't that good as a teenager, but it's been more in the past 10 years that I've played. And I do have a previous podcast that talks about the lessons I've learned from playing golf and how they relate to music and that sort of thing. So that's the golf update. And, the video update. So, this camera is the Sony ZV-1. I've done a lot of videos with it. It's billed as a vlogger camera. It has a flip out screen, and it's based on the Sony RX series of cameras, which are very popular. And they fix my hair. This little piece of hair always falls forward. It's I've had an interesting relationship with photography and video over the years. I've tried stuff with analog film, and I really enjoyed that, but the process was hard to learn what was going on. You just took pictures in black and white, and then they developed them, and you don't know anything. That's why photographers traditionally used to write down what each shot was in the settings, and then they'd compare it back later. Plus, I wasn't developing the film, so I didn't know anything about what was happening on that end. I tried a DSLR that I borrowed from my sister, and that it was okay. It was chunky, so I wasn't going to take it very many places. If I ever took it when I was out with friends, people were like, "Whoa, what you doing? Why you up in my face with that thing?" Even with the film cameras, it was like that too. So I got discouraged, and I don't know, the pictures just looked flat always. I learned a bit about processing them in Lightroom, and just was not feeling it. And then I got this Canon G9X camera, which was like a $400 or $500 point and click, and it took really nice photos and probably video, but it didn't have a screen. I realized if I have a camera like this, it should have a flip out screen so I can make videos of me playing music and talking and that sort of thing. So I exchanged it for a camera almost double the value, which was the Sony ZV-1, and it's I've had a good experience with it overall. There is something about the lens, the depth of field or whatever, which makes it a little hard doing video in an apartment, because you need to, for a vlogger camera, and I've heard people say this, the depth of field, if I'm using the right word, is, or focal length, one of those two, is not really that ideal, because you have to put the camera farther away from you in order to be in the frame comfortably. So for a vlogger, which I'm not that type of person who makes video like this, where you're holding your hand and talking, I put it on a tripod, but even then I have to play around. So this podcast video is being done on my iPhone, because then I won't have to worry about the length of time that it's going to record. And that's relevant to this Sony ZV-1 review, is that it would, like, if I put this camera on the tripod right now, it would do some really nice stuff in terms of seeing where my face is, and then setting the light and everything accordingly and making it look really good. But the problem is that then I got to do more stuff with, it's going to eat up way more memory to do that video. So I need either a bigger memory card, and then the battery issue was a whole thing that I've gone through lately. It took me a while to really figure out what was going on, but in SLR world, people use these things called dummy batteries, which allow you to plug your camera into the wall, so you don't have an issue with batteries. But I actually found out that you can use the USB cable with the Sony ZV-1, and then then you just got to plug that USB cable into a wall adapter, not a computer, and then you can then it will help power the camera. And then on top of it, you can use the HDMI out of the camera to, first of all, you can use it for live streaming, and then you can use it for Zoom meetings, and then you can also record out of that HDMI onto a computer with a capture card. So I'm not speaking English anymore, but if you are into video, you will understand what I'm saying. There's a lot of options there, but it took me a while to figure out how to get this camera to be able to run for more than a few minutes without running out of gas, and then how to record it in a way where I have the memory to work with. And that's just the point where everything comes right back to, is the iPhone has no problem with that, and the iPhone also takes photos, and I have an iPhone 8, which is old now by today's standards. It takes pretty cool photos as well. So it's a tough debate for people, but if you are interested in something for your creative side, taking better photos, and on a smartphone, you can get apps that will let you play around with the settings of what the camera is going to shoot. But on this type of thing, I can set it to manual, and then for sunrise and sunset, I can get some really cool shots, and then so this has been a good re-entry into, so having an SLR was difficult for me, and I couldn't make sense of it. But then with this camera, I almost fully understand how manual exposure works for both. For video, I think I always would just put it in an auto mode. I need it to, if I'm moving around, just have it look for my face and set the settings. But for that sunrise and sunset stuff, I think manual is really nice. So yeah, the only thing is, from what I understand, is that Sony might not be the best for photography. And this camera might not be the best for photography, because I think the features have been weighted towards video and that HDMI out for live streaming, and the autofocus being incredible, which you don't apparently get with some of the Canon cameras. I know almost nothing about Panasonic, Nikon's, although all the other brands we'd call this a point and click. but high end point and click. I don't know much about the other brands. I more just know Sony and Canon. Those are the two that I would myself stick with for comparing models. But yeah, I recommend. I do have a recommendation of the Sony ZV-1. It's been good. Also, you can plug external microphone on it, and it has two microphones on the top, which it comes with a little furry windscreen, which is funny because anyone in field recording is familiar with the furry. So it was kind of that was a nice selling point for me to see that furry. But you can get the new Sony ZV. I think it's called the Sony ZV-E10, which is like E10, I think, and it's a mirrorless. It's this camera, but with, and I don't know if this is mirrorless. I doubt it. I don't know what. Mirrorless is the hot thing right now if you want something in between point and click and SLR. And so the next level up, you can have interchangeable lenses, which would be my probably next logical step, because that could take care of the issue with, I could put on another lens that will allow me to put the camera closer to me and just make it easier to handle working in a small space. And if once you go down the Sony ZV-1 rabbit hole, there's a lot of accessories that people are using for it, and involving like access to the battery door and which I think you call it a cage, and it's endless. And there's even a lens adapter that people use to stick onto it for a wider angle lens. So yeah, it's been fun for me to do that, and I guess that comes back to what I was going to say earlier about the lessons in music and the stuff that I'm learning is that you just have to show up. And I feel like I'm saying this every week now, and I don't really have a problem saying it every week because it maybe is becoming my thing, and it's my lesson, and it's my message to share. Like, none of it really matters. Like, that's why it's like, okay, if I made a podcast where I researched everything and everything was perfect, like, and then if I make a podcast where I show my leftover pasta and I'm wearing my sweatsuit and my Champion slippers, like, they're all the same in the end. I mean, it's just, does someone care to listen to me? Am I valid to someone? I mean, I'm valid to myself. That's the starting point that everyone needs to be coming from. You can't be going out there doing this stuff to, making music, talking on a podcast, and posting it on social media. You can't be doing this for likes and for people to love you. That's like the bottom line, right? One of the bottom lines right there. You have to come from a place of like, I'm here to explore my talents. I'm here to further those talents. I'm here to get better. I'm here to help people. I'm here to make connections with people. Like, there's probably a huge list that someone could make of like good reasons to put their ass on the line. And then there's the list of horrible reasons to put their ass on the line, which is like chasing after love from other outside sources, which is called extrinsic and external motivation. It has to come from within you, and it takes some soul searching to do that. But the soul searching mostly takes place when you put yourself in the chair and you sit down and you start to lubricate the ideas out of you. And yes, I can admit there are times when I'm blocked and I don't want to practice my instrument. I think it's a challenge, and then especially like at nighttime, you're tired and you just want to watch. I've been watching this show called Mr. Mercedes on Amazon, a murder mystery series written by Stephen King. It's nighttime, you just want to watch that show and you don't want to practice, and that's probably not ideal time to practice anyways. Your willpower is completely shot by nighttime after a day of everything that goes on in a computer. talking to people in meetings and whatever. So, but the point of it, the matter is there is that you could, even in your worst moment, sit down and say, practice your instrument or start writing for 3 minutes, a few minutes, and you will start to feel good soon. You might have a bad session, and that's okay too. But it does not take long to drop back into that wholeness of you exploring your creative side in your art. It just does not take that long for things to kick in. And that's kind of what I wanted to say. And that's what happens with the video is like, it's a pain in the butt to set everything up. And then when I'm in it, it starts to, the more you do it, the easier it gets. And then when I'm in it, you don't feel as much resistance because you're breaking through. As Jim Morrison says, he's breaking through to the other side. So that was the music chat I wanted to have, and it's really a creative type chat and a creative pep talk that anything is possible, and that relates back to the thing that I said about the lessons and that sort of thing, and why it's more thought of coaching and training. It's helping people work through those blocks and implementing a practice, and that they can, find the time to get to work on what they know they need to work on, rather than let everyone else drag them around into their drama and whatever they need done from them, and which is fine. I mean, service is very important too, and I do believe in being of service, and for starters, like helping my family when people and having connection with my family and my friends as much as I can, and service in terms of work and what people need. I believe in all that as well, but there's a time and a place for the most creative work. The MC, I'm looking at my hand because it was red from touching my leg this whole time for a time, but the most creative work is the MCW, and it applies to any field you're in. If you're in science, if you're in finance, if you're in mechanics, your most creative work is like when you're just dialed into a thing, a shtick, a specialty, and you know that no one can replicate your work. You are becoming the best in the world in that thing. That's the MCW. And so when it comes to music, I'm very big on the MCW, which is like, for me, I just describe it as like the weirdest music I can make. Is like, that's my MCW. My MCW is not the music that everyone else is able to make and is making at the same time and jumping on trends and that sort of thing. And that's what segues us out of the show, is that my next release should be out in a few days. It's called Let Love In, and it's a country bluesy type thing. It's a very simple track, and then it's B-sided with The Time the Earth Stood Completely Still, which I'm gonna end this show with, and we're gonna play that one. Next week I'll play Let Love In, and Let Love In is I don't even know if the Grateful Dead have the same song title. I don't know. I just did not care. I just made this song. It was fun. It was nice for me, and that was it. But I do think it is my part of my most creative work, because it's different. It's switching things up. It's knocking the brain around. It's helping me address things that I wanted to work on in that I couldn't do with other styles of music or whatever. Namely, I'll be specific here if I'm going to bring that up. I used to be frustrated with working on electronic dance music and that sort of stuff, which I will still do in the future. But something frustrating that, it was hard for it to go anywhere. You can turn it into a jam and that sort of thing, but I'm more interested in song structures and That's why I've gone back to the blues, because it's the most simple song structure, the 1-4-5 progression, and I listen to a lot of 50s pop music lately, country, blues, a little bit of rockabilly, ska, reggae, everything. Like it's so amazing, this idea of, and I don't like modern pop, but I respect that there's been a lineage of music, and I respect that, but I really love this going back to the 30s and that sort of thing, and tracking, and then looking at where jazz comes into this, and that's just one corner of the musical map, and that's the fun part about music, if you let it be fun, is that there's so much that you can explore. But if you've pinned yourself into this cornhole, as I said on Beavis and Butthead, you're just, I don't know. It's fine to be in that hole if you've completely mastered it. You're mastering it, and you know that's the right thing. But for me, I'm still in the stage where I can be in flux and find these middle spaces. And one of the middle spaces at the moment is sort of this country Hawaiian music and its overlap with ambient music, and this in-between space. And it's been very exciting for me to have these different tracks that straddle it, throwing some gospel in there and the blues. And I feel very whole. And so that's just a bit about what's in the pipeline. And the track I'm about to play, The Time That the Earth Stood Completely Still, is actually was finished last year in the winter. So it's referring to the height of the lockdown in Toronto, where it was really restrictive, and like you couldn't even get your hair cut. Everyone had like awful hair for so long. And I remember just all I could do was go for long walks in the cold winter. I love going out for walks in the winter. There's no one out. It's just peace and quiet. And that's what this piece is. And it uses the lap steel guitar. So that's why, it paired well as a nice B-side to a track that was more fun and upbeat, which is the A side of this release that's coming out. And then this is the B side, which is like where we go weird and we get into it, and we get, the world is strange. That's what that piece is sort of, that's what that soundscape is kind of talking about as an instrumental piece. Okay. So yeah, I'm glad we got to talk here. It's been 40 minutes. Thanks for sticking around if you made it this far. I hope you picked up some interesting info. And this is the Sony ZV-1 camera. If you ever want to chat with me about, I feel like an imposter in video, but I think my take on video is completely valid too. I'm, as a hacker, as someone who just plays around with it and is learning, I think I have something good going on as well. You don't need to be a film pro to learn stuff from people. It's almost better to, I'm not saying you want to fully study with video with me. my focus is more music and writing and that sort of thing. But yeah, if you ever want to chat about this stuff, I'm happy to talk about what I know. And there's a lot there that I do know well, with the pairing up of sound and video, and the scoring of video and music, and that sort of thing I'm interested in the whole shebang-a-rooney. Okay, so thanks for listening, and this has been Elliott's podcast, and I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you soon. All right, take care.